Hello viewers and welcome to another chapter of reading. We are in for a long one, so let's get started, shall we? Chapter 32, Out of the Fire. I'm not going. I don't need hospitaling. I don't want... He was gibbering, trying to pull away from Professor Tofty, who was looking at him with much concern, and who had just helped Harry out into the entrance hall while the students all around them started. I'm fine, sir, Harry stammered, wiping the sweat from his face. Really, just go to sleep. I don't have pressure of examinations, said the old wizard sympathetically, patting Harry shakily on the shoulder. It happens, young man, it happens. Now a cooling drink of water, and perhaps you will be ready to return to the Great Hall. The examination is nearly over, but you may be able to round up your last answer nicely. Yes, said Harry wildly. No, I've done as much as I can, I think. Very well, said the old wizard gently. I shall go and collect your examination paper, and I suggest that you go and have a nice lie down. How very nice of Professor Tofty. We all need a Professor Tofty in our lives. I'll do that, said Harry, nodding vigorously. Thanks very much. He waited for the second when the old man's heels disappeared over the threshold into the great hall, then ran up the marble staircase, and then more staircases toward the hospital wing, hurtling along the corridors so fast that the portraits he passed muttered reproaches, and burst through the double doors like a hurricane, causing Madame Pomfrey, who had been spooning some bright blue liquid into Montague's open mouth, to shriek in alarm. I will not attempt that. I don't want to alarm my family. Potter, what do you think you're going? Or doing? Sorry. I'm gonna reread that. Potter, what do you think you're doing? I need to see Professor McGonagall, gasped Harry, his breath tearing his lips. No. It's urgent. She's not here, Potter. Said Madame Pomfrey sadly. She was transferred to St. Marco's this morning. 4 stunning spells straight to the chest out of her rage. It's a wonder they didn't kill her. We miss you, Maggie Smith. We miss you very much. I can only hope that when you went, you didn't take 4 stunning spells to the chest. She's gone, said Harry, stunned. The bell rang just outside the dormitory, and he heard the usual distant rumbling of students starting to flood out into the corridors above and below him. He remained quite still, looking at Madame Pomfrey. Terror was rising inside him. There was nobody left to tell. Dumbledore had gone, Hagrid had gone, but he had always expected Professor McGonagall to be there. Irascible. Ooh, I love that word. Sorry, I just have a penchant for rarely used words, and irascible's just perfect use, JK. Perfect use. And inflexible, perhaps, but always dependably solidly present. I don't wonder you're shocked, Potter, said Madame Pomfrey with a kind of fierce approval in her face, as if one of them could have stunned Minerva McGonagall face on by daylight. Cowardice! That's what it was. Despicable cowardice. I wasn't worried about what would happen to you students without me. I'd resign in protest. You do care, Madame Pomfrey. You just have a unique way of showing it. And besides, Hogwarts would not be the same without you. Yes, said Harry blankly. He strode blindly from the hospital wing into the teeming corridor where he stood, buffeted by the crowd, the panic expanding him inside like poison gas so that his head swam and he could not think what to do. Ron and Hermione, said a voice in his head. He was running again, pushing students out of the way, oblivious to their angry protests and shouts. He sprinted back down 2 floors and was up at the top of the marble staircase when he saw them hurrying toward him. Harry! Said Hermione at once, looking very frightened. What happened? Are you all right? Are you well? Where have you been? Demanded Ron. Buddy, Molly said those exact words 3 books earlier. Like mother, like son. Come with me, Harry said quickly. Come on, I've got to tell you something. He led them up along the first floor corridor, peering through doorways, and at last found an empty classroom to which he dived, closing the door behind Ron and Hermione the moment they were inside and leaning against it, facing them. One almost got serious. What? How do you... So what? Just now, I fell asleep in the exam. But where? How? Said Hermione, whose face was white. And that's a good point. If I were Hermione, I would question this too. And find a way to discreetly ask Sirius if he's okay. And also explain what happened to McGonagall as well. I don't know how, said Harry, but I know exactly where. There's a room in the Department of Mysteries full of shelves covered in these glass balls, and they're at the end of room 97. He's trying to use Sirius to get whatever it is he wants from in there. He's torturing him. Says he'll end by killing him. Well, foreshadowing, I want to say. I want to say foreshadowing, but it's not direct foreshadowing in the literal sense, so I'm going to go with foreshadowing of sorts, like I did in previous chapters. Anyway, moving forth. Harry found his voice was shaking, as were his knees. He moved over to a desk and sat down on it, trying to master himself. How are we going to get there? he asked them. There was a moment's silence. Then Ron said, "Get there! Get to the Department of Mysteries, so we can rescue Sirius," Harry said loudly. "But, Harry," said Ron weakly. "What? What?" said Harry. He couldn't understand why they were both keeping to him, as though he was asking them something unreasonable. "Harry," said Hermione in a rather frightened voice, how did Voldemort get into the Ministry of Magic without anybody realizing he was there?" "How do I know?" bellowed Harry. The question is how we're going to get in there." "But Harry, think about this," said Hermione, taking a step toward him. "It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The Ministry of Magic must be full of workers. How would Voldemort and Sirius have gone in without being seen? Harry, they're probably the two most wanted wizards in the world. You think they could get into a building full of horrors undetected?" I'm glad Hermione's questioning this. Because I definitely am too. Like, I didn't really consider all this exactly. I don't know. Voldemort used an invisibility cloak or something, Harry shouted. Anyway, the Department of Mysteries has always been completely empty whenever I've been. "You've never been there, Harry," said Hermione quietly. "You've dreamed about the place. That's all. They're not normal dreams." Harry shouted in her face, standing up and taking a step closer to her in turn. He wanted to shake her. "How do you explain Ron's dad then? What was that all about? How come I knew what had happened to him?" "He's got a point," said Ron quietly, looking at Hermione. "And he does. But this is just so unlikely." And that's a fair point as well. So this is a case of both sides have a point. At least in this case, anyway. Said Hermione desperately. "Harry, how on earth could Voldemort have got a hold of Sirius when he's been in Grimmauld Place all the time?" "Sirius might have cracked and just wanted some fresh air," said Ron, sounding worried. "He's been desperate to get out of that house for ages." "But why?" Hermione persisted. "Why on earth would Voldemort want to use Sirius to get the weapon? Or whatever the thing is?" "I don't know. There could be loads of reasons," Harry yelled at her. "Maybe Sirius is just someone Voldemort doesn't care about seeing hurt." I mean, you're not wrong about that. "You know what? I just thought of something," said Ron in a hushed voice. "Sirius' brother was a Death Eater, wasn't he? Maybe he told Sirius the secret of how to get the weapon." "Yeah, and that's why Dumbledore's been so keen to keep Sirius locked up all the time," said Harry. "Look, I'm sorry," cried Hermione, "but neither of you are making any sense. And we've got no proof for any of this. Never Voldemort, Sirius, or even that. Hermione, Harry's seen them, said Ron, rounding on her. Well, I don't want to give out spoilers, so we'll just go with that. Okay, she said, looking frightened and yet determined. I've just got to say this. What? This isn't criticism, Harry. But you do, sort of, I mean. Don't you think you've got a bit of a saving people thing? She said. Savior complex, Hermione? It seems a little out of character for you not to know it's called a savior complex. At least, I think that's what you're referring to. I don't even know. Let's make sure. Because now I'm curious. Okay, Google. What is a savior complex?
According to Wikipedia, in psychology, a savior complex is an attitude and demeanor in which a person believes they are responsible for assisting other people. A person with a savior complex will often experience empathic episodes and commit to impulsive decisions such as volunteering, donating, or advocating for a cause.
Okay, I can see a little bit of Harry in that, so maybe I'm not too far off from the truth there. Anyhow, he glared at her. And what's that supposed to mean? A saving people thing. Well, again, more of a savior complex. But it's just, I find it very out of character for Hermione not to know it's called a savior complex. But moving forth. Well, she looked more apprehensive than ever. Well, I mean, last year, for instance, in the lake, during the tournament, you shouldn't have. You didn't need to say that a cool girl. You got a bit carried away. A wave of hot, prickly anger swept Harry's body. How could she remind him of that blunder now? Blunder! Chess term! Yay! Sorry, I make chess. I may dabble in it, but I do love to play it when I play it, so. Moving forth, though. I'm just trying to diffuse this tense chapter with a little humor. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. Moving forth, anyhow. It was really great of you and everything, said Hermione quickly, looking positively petrified at the look on Harry's face. Everyone thought it was a wonderful thing to do. That's funny, said Harry in a trembling voice, because I definitely remember Ron saying that I wasted time acting the hero. Is that what you think this is? You were gonna want to act the hero again? No, said Hermione, looking aghast. That's not what I meant at all. Well, spit out what you've got to say, because we're wasting time here, Harry shouted. I'm trying to say, Voldemort knows you, Harry. He took Ginny down into the Chamber of Secrets to lure you there. It's the kind of thing he does. He knows you're the sort of person who'd go to Sirius's aid. What if he's just trying to get you into the Department of Mystery? Foreshadowing. Hermione, it doesn't matter if he done it to get me there or not. They've taken McGonagall to St. Mungo's. There isn't anyone left from the Order of Hogwarts who we can tell. And if we don't go, Sirius is dead. But Harry, what if your dream was just that? A dream? All I can say is, indeed. Harry let out a roar of frustration. Okay, let's see. Roar of frustration. I've had my fair share of these. How about... Does that qualify as a roar of frustration for you guys? Even if it's a little more literal? Moving forth. Hermione actually stepped back from him, looking alarmed. You don't get it! Harry shouted at her. I'm not having nightmares. I'm not just dreaming. What do you think all the occlumency was for? Why do you think Dumbledore wanted me to prevent it from seeing these things? Because they're real, Hermione. Sirius is trapped. I've seen him. Voldemort's got him and no one else knows. And if that means we're the only ones who can save him, and if you don't want to do it, fine. But I'm going, understand? And if I remember rightly, you didn't have a problem with my saving people then when it was you I was saving from the Dementors, or he rounded up, Ron, or when it was your sister I was saving from the basilisk. I never said I had a problem, said Ron heatedly. But Harry, you've just said it, Hermione said fiercely. Dumbledore wanted you to learn to shut these things out of your mind. If you'd done occupancy properly, you'd never have seen this. Do you think I'm going to act like I haven't seen? Sirius told you there was nothing more important than you learning to close your mind. Well, I expect he'd say something different if he knew what I just... The classroom door opened. Harry, Ron, and Hermione whipped around. Ginny walked in, looking curious. Oh, look at that. We have another thing in common. We're curious. Excuse me. Followed by Luna, who, as usual, looked as though she had drifted in accidentally. Yeah, that would be a me thing, too. Hi, said Ginny uncertainly. We recognized Harry's voice. What are you yelling about? Never you mind, said Harry roughly. Ginny raised her eyebrows. There's no need to take that tone with me, she said coolly. I was only wondering whether I could help. Well, you can't, said Harry shortly. You're being rather rude, you know, said Luna serenely. Harry swore and turned away. The very last thing he wanted now was a conversation with Luna Lovegood. Wait, said Hermione suddenly. Wait, Harry, they can help. Harry and Ron looked at her. Listen, she said urgently. Harry, we need to establish whether Sirius really has left headquarters. I told you I saw. Harry, I'm begging you, please, said Hermione desperately. Please, let's just check that Sirius isn't at home before we go charging off to London. If we find out he's not there, then I swear I won't try and stop you. I'll come. I'll do whatever it takes to try and save him. Sirius is being tortured now, shouted Harry. We haven't got time to waste. But if this is a trick of Voldemort's, Harry, we've got to check. We've got to. How? Harry demanded. How are we going to check? We'll have to use Umbridge's fire and see if we can contact him, said Hermione, who looked positively terrified at the thought. We'll try Umbridge away again, but we'll need lookouts. And that's where we can use Ginny and Luna. Though clearly struggling to understand what was going on, Ginny said immediately, yeah, we'll do it. And Luna said, when you say serious, are you talking about stuffy board man? Oh, Luna, I think I speak for all of us when I say I needed that laugh. We love you, Luna. We really do. Nobody answered her. Okay, said Harry aggressively to Hermione. Okay, if you can think of a way of doing this quickly, I'm with you. Otherwise, I'm going to the Department of Mysteries right now. The Department of Mysteries, said Luna, looking mildly surprised. But how are you going to get there? Again, Harry ignored her. Right, said Hermione, twisting her hands together and pacing up and down between the desks. Right. Well, one of us has to go and find Umbridge and set her off in the wrong direction. Keep her away from her office. They could tell her, I don't know, that Peeves is up to something awful as usual. I'll do it, said Ron at once. I'll tell her Peeves is smashing up the Transfiguration department or something. It's miles away from her office. Come to think of it, I could probably persuade Peeves to do it if I met him on the way. I would have loved to see that in the films. It was a mark of the seriousness of the situation that Hermione made no objection to the smashing up of the Transfiguration department. Out of character is serious business. Okay, she said, her brow furrowed as she continued to pace. And we need to keep students away from her office while we... For a century, or some Slytherin's bound to go and tip her off. Luna and I can stand at either end of the corridor, said Ginny promptly, and warn people not to go down there, because someone set off a load of garroting gas. Okay, I don't know what garroting gas is, but based on that statement, I'm going to assume it's some kind of nuclear atomic bomb of gaseous substances. What do you guys think? Anyhow, Hermione looked surprised at the readiness with which Ginny had come up with this plot. Ginny shrugged and said, Prince George were planning to do it before they left. Okay, said Hermione. Well then, Harry, you and I will be under the invisibility cloak, and we'll sneak into the office so you can talk to Sirius. He's not there, Hermione. I mean, you can check whether Sirius is at home or not, while I keep watch. I don't think you should be in there alone. These already proved the window's weak spot, sending those nifflers through it. Even though his anger and impatience, Harry recognized Hermione's offer as to accompany him into Umbridge's office as a sign of solidarity and loyalty. Oh, Harry, you deserve all the loyalty and kindness in the world. Okay, thanks, he muttered. Right. Well, even if we do all that, I don't think we're going to make it more than 5 minutes, said Hermione, looking relieved that Harry seemed to have accepted the plan. Not with Filch and the wretched Inquisitorial squad floating around. 5 minutes will be enough, said Harry. Come on, let's go. Now, said Hermione, looking shocked. Of course now, said Harry angrily. What did you think? We're going to wait until after dinner or something? Hermione, Sirius is being tortured right now. All right, she said desperately. You go and get the invisibility cloak, and we'll meet you at the end of Umbridge's corridor, okay? Harry did not answer, but flung himself out of the room and began to fight his way through the milling crowds outside. 2 floors up he met Seamus and Dean, who hailed him jovially and told him they were planning a dusk till dawn end of exam celebration in the common room. Okay, that's quite a long celebration. But it would be very much well deserved, because I think they all need a break. Moving forth. Harry barely heard them. He scrambled through the orchard hole while they were still arguing about how many Black Market butterbeers they would need and was climbing back out of it. The invisibility cloak and Sirius's knife secure in his bag before they noticed he left them. Harry, do you want to chip in a couple of cannons? Harold Dingle reckons he could sell some fire whiskey. But Harry was already tearing away along the back corridor, and a couple of minutes later was jumping the last few stairs to join Ron, Ginny, Luna, and Hermione. Okay, so I read them in a lot of order, but oh well. The book goes Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Luna, in case you were wondering. Regardless, you got the concept all the same, right? Who were huddled together at the end of Umbridge's corridor. Got it, he panted. Ready to go then? All right, whispered Hermione as again a wild 6 years passed them. Oh. So Ron, you go and head Umbridge up. Ginny, Luna, you can start moving people out of the corridor. Harry and I will get the cloak on and wait until the coast is clear. Ron strode away, his bright red hair visible right to the end of the passage. Meanwhile, Ginny's equally vivid head bobbled in between the jostling students surrounding them in the other direction, trailed by Luna's blonde one. Get over here, muttered Hermione, tugging at Harry's wrist and pulling him back into a recess, where the ugly stone head of a medieval wizard muttering to itself on a column. Are you sure you're okay, Harry? You're still very pale. I'm fine, he said shortly, tugging the invisibility cloak from out of his bag. In truth, his scar was aching, but not so badly that he thought Voldemort had yet dealt Sirius a fatal blow. It hurt much worse than this when Voldemort had been punishing Avery. I think my reason for that is because he genuinely believes that he's attacking someone he deeply cares about, and sometimes that can have a stronger connection to pain than someone you barely know. Does that make sense? We are joined by Corinne. You love butter like Mama, don't you? Yes, you do. Moving forth. he said. He threw the invisibility cloak over both of them, and they stood listening carefully over the Latin mumblings of the bust in front of them. "You can't come down here," Ginny was calling to the crowd. "No, sorry, you're gonna have to go round by the swiveling staircase. There was like a captain gas just along here." They could hear people complaining. One shrill voice said, I can't see no gas." "That's because it's colorless," said Ginny in a convincingly exasperated voice. "But if you want to walk through a canal, then we'll have your body as proof for the next idiot who didn't believe us." Slowly the crowd thinned. The news about the garrison gas seemed to have spread. People were not coming this way anymore. When at last the surrounding area was quite clear, Hermione said quietly, "I guess that's what we're going to get, Harry. Come on, let's do it." Together they moved forward, covered by the cloak. Luna was standing with her back to them at the far end of the corridor. As they passed Ginny, Hermione whispered, "Good one, don't forget the signal." "What's the signal?" Harry muttered as they approached Dumbledore's door. "A loud chorus of Weasley as our king. If they see Umbridge coming..." Oh, wrong voice. "A loud chorus of Weasley is our king. If they see Umbridge coming," replied Hermione as Harry inserted the blade of Sirius's knife in the crack between the door and the wall. The wall clicked open, and they entered the office. The garnished kittens were basking in the late afternoon sunshine, warming their place, but otherwise the office was still and empty as last time. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought you might have added extra security after the second Niffler." They pulled off the cloak. Hermione hurried over to the window and stood out of sight, peering down into the grounds with her wand out. Harry dashed over the fireplace, seized the pot of blue powder, and threw a pinch into the grate, causing emerald flames to burst into life there. He knelt down quickly, thrust his head into the dancing fire, and cried, "Number 12 Grimmauld Place!" His head began to spin as though he had just gotten off a fairground ride, though his knees remained firmly planted on the cold office floor. He kept his eyes screwed up against the whirling ash, and when the spinning stopped, he opened them to find himself looking out upon the long cold kitchen of Grimmauld Place. There was nobody there. He had expected this, yet it was not prepared for the molten wave of dread and panic that seemed to burst through his stomach for to the trying to decipher this. Hang on. Okay. There was nobody there. He expected this, yet was not prepared for the sudden wave of dread and panic that seemed to burst through his stomach to the floor at the sight of the deserted room. "Sirius!" he shouted. "Sirius, are you there?" His voice echoed around the room, but there was no answer except the tiny scuffing sound right next to the right of the fire. "What was that?" he called, wondering whether it was just a mouse. Creature the house elf came creeping into view. He looked highly delighted about something, though he seemed to have recently sustained a nasty injury to both hands, which were heavily bandaged. The Potter's boy's head in the fire. Creature informed the empty kitchen, stealing furtive, oddly triumphant glances at her. What has he come for, Creature wonders? A mysterious creature, Harry demanded. The house elf gave a wheezy chuckle. Master has gone out, Harry Potter. Where's he gone? Where's he gone, Creature? Creature merely cowered. I'm warning you, said Harry, fully aware that his scope for inflicting punishment upon Creature was almost non-existent in his position. What about Lupin? Mad-Eye? Any of them, or any of them here? Nobody here but Creature, said the elf gleefully, and turning away from Harry, he began to walk slowly toward the door at the end of the kitchen. Creature thinks he will have a little chat with his mistress now, yes. He hasn't had a chance in a long time. Creature's master has been keeping him away from her. Where has Sirius gone? Harry yelled after the elf. Creature, has he gone to the Department of Mysteries? Creature stopped in his tracks. Harry could just make out the back of his bald head through the forest of chair legs before him. Master does not tell poor Creature where he is going, said the elf quietly. But you know, shouted Harry. Don't you? You know where he is. There was a moment's silence, then the elf let out his loudest cackle yet. I don't know how elves cackle, so I will refrain from trying to attempt one. Master will not come back from the Department of Mysteries, he said gleefully. Foreshadowing. Creature and his mistress are known again. And he scurried forward, disappearing through the door to the hall. You! But before he could utter a single curse or insult, Harry felt a great pain at the top of his head. He inhaled a wad of smoke and ash. He inhaled a wad of ash, and choking, found himself being dragged backward through the flames until, with a horrible roughness, he was staring up into the wide, pallid face of Professor Umbridge, who had dragged him backward out of the fire by the hair and was now bending his neck as far as it would go, as though she was going to slit his throat. I would hate that. I do not want that to happen to anyone. That sounds like a nightmare. You think, she whispered, bending Harry's neck back even further, so that he was looking up at the ceiling above him, that after 2 nifflers I was going to let one more foul scavenging little creature enter my office without my knowledge. I had stealth censoring spells placed all around my doorway after the last one got in, you foolish boy. Take this one. She barked at someone he couldn't see, and he felt a hand grope inside the chest pocket of his robe and removed the wand. There's two. Harry heard a scuffle over by the door and knew that Hermione just had her wand rustled from her as well. I want to know why you are in my office, said Umbridge, shaking her fist, clutching his hair so that he staggered. I was trying to get my fighter bolt, Harry croaked. Liar! She shook his head again. Your firebolt is on the strict guard in the dungeons, as you very well know, Potter. You had your head in My fire! With whom have you been communicating? No one, said Harry, trying to pull away from her. He felt several hairs part company with his scalp. Oh, ouch. Liar! Shouted Umbridge. He threw him from her and he slammed into the desk. Now he could see Hermione Pineyard? We'll go with pinned. I think that's what he meant. Now he could see Hermione pinned against the wall by Millicent Bulstrode. That name should be familiar to you. Malfoy was leaning on the window, still smirking as he threw Harry's wand into the air one-handed, and then caught it again. Oh, I love doing that with my stuffed animals. For instance, ta-da! There was a commotion outside, and several voiced children entered, each gripping Ron, Ginny, Luna, and to Harry's bewilderment, Neville, who was trapped in a strange hole by Crabbe and looked in imminent danger of suffocation. All four of them had been gagged. Cut them all, said Warrington, shoving Ron roughly forward into the room. That one, he poked a finger at Neville, tried to stop me taking her. He pointed at Ginny, who was trying to kick the shins of the large Slytherin girl holding her. So I brought him along too. Good, good, said Umbridge, watching Ginny struggles. It looks as though Hogwarts will surely be a Weasley for his own, doesn't it? Malfoy laughed wildly and sycophantically. I can barely use words. Umbridge gave her wide, complacent smile and settled herself into a jizz-covered armchair, blinking up at her captives like a toad in a flower bed. I'm just imagining her as an actual toad, and it's hilarious. Moving forth. So, Potter, she said, you've stationed lookouts around my office and you've sent this buffoon. She nodded at Ron and Malfoy laughed even louder. To tell me the poltergeist was wreaking havoc in the transfiguration department when I knew perfectly well that he was busy smearing ink on the eyepieces of all the school telescopes. Mr. Filch had been just informed me so. Clearly it was very important for you to talk to somebody. Was it Albus Dumbledore? Or the half-breed Hagrid? I doubt it was Minerva McGonagall. I hear she is still too ill to talk to anyone. Malfoy and a few of the other members of the Inquisitorial Squad laughed some more at that. Harry was so full of rage and hatred he found he was shaking. It's none of your business who I talk to, he snarled. Umbridge's black face seemed to faint. Very well, she said in her most dangerous and falsely sweet voice. Very well, Mr. Potter. I offered you the chance to tell me. Really, you refused. I have no alternative but to force you. Draco, fetch Professor Snape. Malfoy stowed Harry's wand inside his robe and left the room smirking, but he hardly noticed. He just realized something. He could not believe he had been stupid to forget it. He thought all of the members of the Order, all of those who could help him save Sirius, were gone. But he had been wrong. There was still a member of the Order of the Phoenix at Hogwarts. Snape! There was silence in the office except for the fidgetings and scuffling resulting from the Slytherin's efforts to keep Ron and the others under control. Ron's whip was bleeding onto Umbridge's carpet as he struggled against Warrington's half Nelson. Ginny was still trying to stamp on the feet of the sixth-year girl who had both her arms in a tight grip. Neville was turning steadily more purple in the face while tugging at Crabbe's arm, and Hermione was attempting vainly to throw Millicent Bulstrode off her. Luna, however, stood limply by the side of her captor, gazing vaguely out the window as though rather bored by the proceedings. Okay, out of all of those, I would most likely be Luna. If I don't elbow my whoever is holding me back first. But who would you be in this situation? Harry looked back at Umbridge, who was watching him closely. He kept his face deliberately smooth and blank as footsteps were heard in the corridor outside, and Draco Malfoy came back into the room, holding the door open for Snape. You wanted to see me, said Snape, looking around at all the pairs of struggling students with an expression of complete indifference. At this point, Snape is the lesser of two evils in this chapter. So I'm giving him a pass for now. Ah, Professor Snape, said Umbridge, smiling widely and standing up again. I would like another bottle of Veritas serum, as quick as you can, please. You took my last bottle to interrogate Potter, he said, observing her coolly as though through his greasy curtains of black hair. Surely you did not use it. Oh, I told you that 3 drops would be sufficient. Umbridge blushed. You can make some more, can't you? She said, her voice becoming more sweetly girlish as it always did when she was furious. Certainly, said Snape to Lefroy. It takes a full cycle to mature. Umbridge, swallowing toadishly. I would have loved to see that in the film. A month that I needed this evening, Snape. I've just found Potter using my fire to communicate with the person of people unknown. Really? Said Snape, showing his first faint sign of interest as he looked around at her. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Potter has never shown much inclination to follow school rules. His cold dark eyes were boring into Harry's, who met his gaze unflinchingly, concentrating hard on what he'd seen in his dream, willing Snape to read it in his mind, to understand. I wish to interrogate him, shouted Umbridge angrily. And Snape looked away from Harry back into her furiously quivering face. I wish you to provide me with a pardon that will force me to that will force him to tell me the truth. I have already told you, said Snape smoothly, that I have no further thoughts of Veritaserum. Unless you wish to poison Potter, and I assure you, I would have the greatest sympathy with you if you did. I cannot help you. The only trouble is that most villains are too fast to give the victim much time for telling. Remember that I said I was giving Snape that pass for now? Yeah, I take that pass back. You should never, ever, ever wish to poison someone. No matter how many. Okay, you should never, ever poison someone. No matter how much you wish you want to. But, moving forward. Snape looked back at Harry, who stared at him, frantic to communicate without words. Voldemort's got Sirius in the Department of Mysteries, he thought desperately. Voldemort's got Sirius. You are on probation, shrieked Professor Umbridge, and Snape looked back at her, his eyebrows slightly raised. You are being deliberately unhelpful. I expected better. Lucius Malfoy always speaks most highly of you. Now get out of my office. Snape gave her an ironic bow and turned to leave. Harry knew his last chance of letting the Order know what was going on was walking out of the door. He's got Padfoot! He shouted. He's got Padfoot at the place where it's hidden! Snape had stopped with his hand on Umbridge's door handle. Padfoot! Cried Professor Umbridge, looking eagerly from Harry to Snape. What is Padfoot? Or what is in it? What does he mean, Snape? Snape looked around at Harry. His face was inscrutable. Harry could not tell whether he had understood or not, but he did not dare speak more plainly in front of Umbridge. I have no idea, said Snape coldly. Potter, when I was nonsense. to that money, I shall give you a babbling beverage. And grab, loosen your hold a little. If Longbottom suffocates, it will mean a lot of tedious paperwork. And I am afraid I shall have to mention it on your reference if you ever apply for a job. He closed the door behind him with a snap. Leaving Harry in a state of worse turmoil than before. Snape had been his very last hope. You're my only hope, Obi-Wan. Or is it Obi-Wan, you're my only hope? Regardless of how it goes, well, please correct me if I got that wrong. But regardless of how it goes, to make that Star Wars reference again, you're my only hope, Obi-Wan. That's like the very first thing I thought of when I read this. Well, reread this, but that's beside the point. Moving forth. He looked at Umbridge, who seemed to be feeling the same way. Her chest was heaving with rage and frustration. Very well, she said, and she pulled out her wand. Very well. I'm left with no alternative. This is more than a matter of school discipline. This is an issue of ministry security. Yes, yes. She seemed to be talking herself into something. She was shifting her weight nervously from foot to foot, staring at Harry, facing her wand against her empty palm and breathing heavily. Harry felt horribly powerless without his own wand as he watched her. You are forcing me, Potter. I do not want to, said Umbridge, still moving restlessly on the spot. But sometimes circumstances justify the use. I am sure the minister will understand that I had no choice. Malfoy was watching her with a hungry expression on his face. Cruciatus yourself and loosen your tongue, said Umbridge quietly. No! Shrieked Hermione. Professor Umbridge, it's illegal! But Umbridge took no notice. There was a nasty, eager, excited look on her face that Harry had never seen before. She raised her wand. The minister wants you to break the law, Professor Umbridge, cried Hermione. But Cornelius doesn't know won't hurt him, said Umbridge, who was now panting slightly as she pointed her wand at different parts of Harry's body in turn, apparently deciding what would hurt them most. You never knew I ordered the Dementors after Potter last summer, but I was delighted to be given the chance to expel him all the same. It was you, gasped Harry. You sent the Dementors after me. Honestly, I forgot about that piece of lore. Which is a little surprising considering I remember everything I read in Potter. But moving forth. Somebody had to act, breathed Umbridge as her wand came to rest, pointing directly at Harry's forehead. They were all bleating about silencing you somehow, discrediting you. But I was the one who actually did something about it. Only you wriggled out of that one, didn't you, Potter? Not today, though. Not now. And taking a deep breath, she cried, Crush! No! Shouted Hermione in a cracked voice from behind Millicent Bulstrode. No, Harry! Harry, we'll have to tell her! No way! Yelled Harry, staring at the little of Hermione he could see. We'll have to, Harry! She'll force it out of you anyway! What's the point? And Hermione began to cry weakly into the back of Millicent Bulstrode's robe. Millicent stopped trying to squash her against the wall immediately and dodged her out of the way, looking disgusted. Well, said Umbridge, looking triumphant. Little Miss Costello is going to give us some answers. Come on, girl, come on. No, shouted Ron through his gag. Ginny was staring at Hermione as though she had never seen her before. Neville, still choking for breath, was gazing at her, too. But Harry had just noticed something. Though Hermione was sobbing desperately into her hands, there was no trace of a tear. I'm sorry, everyone, said Hermione, but I can't stand it. That's right, girl, said Umbridge, seizing Hermione by the shoulders, thrusting her into the abandoned chair and leaning overhead. Nothing. With who was Potter communicating just now? I'm sorry. I'm just proud of Hermione thinking of this on this spot. Like, kudos. Sorry. Continuing forth. Gulped Hermione into her hands. He was trying to speak to Professor Dumbledore. Ron froze, his eyes wide. Ginny stopped trying to stamp on her slithering captor's toes. Even Luna looked mildly surprised. Fortunately, the attention of Umbridge and her minions was focused too exclusively upon Hermione to notice these suspicious signs. Okay. Little unobservant, aren't we? Moving forth. Dumbledore, said Umbridge eagerly. You know where Dumbledore is, then? Well, no, sobbed Hermione. We've tried the Leaky Cauldron and Diagon Alley, and the broomsticks, and even the Hawkshead. Idiot girl! Dumbledore won't be sitting in a pub when the whole ministry's looking for him. Shouted Umbridge. Disappointment etched in every sagging line of her face. But we needed to tell him something important, said Hermione, holding her hands more tightly over her face. Not Harry knew out of anguish, but to disguise the continued absence of tears. Yes, said Umbridge with a sudden resurgence of excitement. What was it you wanted to tell him? We wanted to tell him it's ready, choked Hermione. What's ready? Demanded Umbridge. And now she grabbed Hermione's shoulders again and shook her slightly. What's ready, girl? The weapon, said Hermione. Weapon? What weapon? Said Umbridge, and her eyes seemed to pop with excitement. You've been developing some method of resistance, a weapon you could use against the Ministry. On Professor Dumbledore's orders, of course. Yes, gasped Hermione. But he had to leave before it was finished. And then we finished the poem. And we can't find him to tell him. What kind of weapon is it? Said Umbridge harshly, her stubby hands still tight on Hermione's shoulders. We don't really understand it, said Hermione, sniffing mildly. We just what Professor Dumbledore tells us to do. Umbridge straightened up, looking exultant. Lead me to the weapon, she said. I'm not showing them, she said shrilly, looking around at the soldiers through her fingers. It is not for you to set conditions, said Professor Umbridge harshly. Fine, said Hermione, now sobbing and doing it again. Fine, let them see it. If they use it on you. In fact, I'd wish you would find loads and loads of people to come and see. That would serve you right. I would love it if the whole school knew where it was. I'd have to use it. And then if you annoy any of them, they'll be able to sort you out. These words had a powerful impact on Umbridge. She glanced swiftly and suspiciously around at her inquisitorial squad, her bulging eyes resting for a moment on Malfoy, who was too slow to disguise the look of eagerness and greed that appeared on his face. Umbridge contemplated Hermione for another moment, and then spoke in what she clearly thought was a motherly voice. Okay, okay. The irony in that is hilarious. Alright, dear. Let's make it just you and me, and we'll take Potter too, shall we? Get up now. I really hope you're not able to hear my mom singing. And if you are, I'm sorry. That's why I shook my head. Anyway. Professor, said Malfoy eagerly. Professor Umbridge, I think some of the school should come with you to look after. I am a fully qualified ministry official, Malfoy. Do you really think I cannot manage to watch these teenagers alone? Asked Umbridge sharply. In any case, it does not sound as though this weapon is something that school children should see. You will remain here until I return and make sure none of these, she gestured at Ron, Ginny, Neville, and Luna, escape. All right, said Malfoy, looking sulky and disappointed. And you two can go ahead of me and show me the way, said Umbridge, now pointing at Harry and Hermione with her wand. Lead on! And that is the end of this chapter. Join me next week for chapter 33. Fight and flight. I had to emphasize because normally it would not be easily read calmly. But until then, bye!